Hello, good evening, everybody, and we are live again. I'll wait for everybody to join in. The topic today is conflict management. Fight it right. So I shall wait for people to join and we shall begin the session of conflict management. So let me see who all are there. Hello, Chandra sir. Thank you for joining in. I'll wait for more people. Okay, so hello everybody. As I said, topic today, Mondays with Priya Arya. Today we are going to talk about conflict. We all know the types of conflicts that happen, and I'm going to pick up the most common ones, the conflicts that really trouble us. Hi, Amrita. The conflicts that are a daily routine for us. Like, for example, the most common example I can give is the domestic conflicts between spouses, between, what do you say, your mother in law and daughter in law conflict. So, being a counselor, mostly when I sit across the table and I talk to most of the marriage counselees, this is the favorite topic, how my mother-in-law tries controlling me and how I'm trying to, and my husband. We have to please understand this now. My husband never takes a stand for me. It's a common complaint. So we're definitely going to touch this, plus the office politics. So we're going to touch that aspect, because these two aspects really trouble us for a longer time, and it has a deeper impact compared to anything else that happens around us. So first, let's understand what a conflict is and how does it manifest. It begins from here. I'm again going to say anything happening in your life first manifests here. Your thoughts. Anything happens. We are emotional beings. We were made for jungles. I repeat this in every episode. So, anybody who's repeatedly watching my episodes, it gets drilled into you. Emotions get manifested only because of the thoughts that you have, your thoughts. So the minute something happens at a house, say for example, you've just got married and you've come to a new house, new surroundings, new culture, new value system, obviously expecting you to suddenly plug into a new system, or anybody, or you expecting others to suddenly plug you into a new system. It's a new family, whether it's gender. I'm not talking about the gender part here at all, whether it is the man or the woman of the house, the new entry in a house after marriage, a new entry in an office after a certain while when the teams are already made. There is already a bonding. We know the goods and the bads of others and we have accepted. A new member entering will always create a little ruffle. Always. So now the thought comes, the thought that most of us get when we face that ruffle is, oh my God, I am not good enough. Or, oh my God, these people are not understanding me. Or, oh my God, what do I do to make them understand that this is not the way I am? I am being misunderstood. People are not understanding me. Oh my God, these people are so bad. Their work culture is bad. Their ethics are bad. All these thoughts create, this is the beginning of a conflict in your head. It manifests here first. Then these thoughts lead to an emotion. Now, the minute you think, oh my God, I'm not good enough, it will lead to a very depressive state of mind. It will lead to low self confidence. It will lead to many other things. Now, the minute you say, oh, listen, I'm very good, but these guys, they do not deserve me. I deserve something better. What is the emotion you will have? You will have indifference stemmed with anger. Stemmed with anger. Now, if you think, oh my God, these guys don't understand, how dare they think like this about me, you will get immense anger. Now, what do you do with this anger? What do you do with these fears? Either you will confront, now begins the conflict. Either you will confront, there will be a word of wars, or you will keep quiet because of our old moral science values that good people do not talk. We run away from confrontation. We are not looking at the threat right into the eyes. We are not giving a chance to the other person to explain. So we keep it in ourselves. Hi, Pratibha. Hi. So we keep it in ourselves. Hi, Rakesh. Ah, good to see you, Rakesh. So when we keep it in ourselves and we don't talk, it starts piling up. It starts piling up to the level of creating a volcanic eruption at some point. And when that eruption happens, it disables the entire setup. Because people were not aware you were going through all of this. And suddenly, when they come to know, okay, this is what you were thinking, there is a loss of trust. Because for so long you were so nice to me, and is this what you were thinking? So, how do I trust you going forward? How do I trust that sweetness that you gave me for so long while harboring such emotions deep within? I had the right to know what you were thinking about me. So the conflict turns from people-centric to the trust center. The center of the emotion, the center of any relationship gets shaken up. So how do we go about it? Then comes the third part of it. How do you manage life after that confrontation, whether it has happened in a smaller terms, smaller, like everyday confrontation that's happening, which is also not good, or long term. So now we'll start from the beginning with different examples. I'm going to pick up examples and I'm going to dissect it right for you to understand and take back home. Day before yesterday, I was having a word with my student, my counselee, and she was really upset because she had a breakdown and a huge fight with her husband, and she was like, I don't think so I love this man anymore, and it is 12 years of marriage. So I said, okay, what happened? You have to now begin with what happened. The fight happened 2 days back. So she's like, okay, we were just playing Ludo. We had this basic setup in the evening. We play Ludo online, and we were playing with all our family across online Ludo. And suddenly this guy kept cutting his the pyada. And she just turned around and said, you always do that. You're just after my life all the time. You always want to kill me. That man took major offense to this. What do you mean I'm always after you and I always want to kill you? What are you trying to say? And that led to a huge disagreement between the couple that 2 days they did not talk to each other. And she called me up extremely pissed. A day before that, she tried sitting and talking to him that, listen, I know they have had enough of baggage also. There's a past baggage with them where it's an arranged marriage and they both had different expectations. And then they tried overcoming the expectations, but the husband had an extramarital. But then there came a point where he realized he can't live without his wife, because the wife one fine day stood up and gave him that fear of consequence of losing forever. So that was the day he realized he's fallen in love with the wife all over again. For the first time, he's fallen in love with his wife, and he's really trying hard to mend his ways. Now this one is saying, now I am not in love with this man. Now how do we, and I'm in with him because of my kids. So how do I solve this? Now I don't trust this man at all. So I said, okay. So then she said, okay, 3-4 days back also he did that. Just before the lockdown also he did that. We went for a party. He was watching a woman who was looking very nice. I said, but you don't love him. She said, yeah, I don't love him. I said, then it shouldn't matter whether he's watching a woman or he's watching a man or he's watching anybody. Why is that thought coming to you if you don't love him? So she was like, okay, no, maybe I love him. No, I don't love him, because last time when I showed my love to him, it was really bad and it was really horrible. He did not respect my love. I said, no, now there are two different things we are talking. You don't love him, vis-a-vis you don't want to show him that you love him. So she just kept quiet. She's like, maybe I don't know, maybe no, he's not a good man. Since last 7 months, he's really trying everything, but I am unable to reciprocate. And those fears keep cropping up. The past keeps cropping up. I say, because for the 7 months, you have not been able to forgive him for what he's done to you before when he was not in love. Now when the man, hi Rohit, now when the man is in love with you and you say you're not in love while feeling jealous about him, while not wanting him to move on with his life, or else you have an open relationship, let him go, let him have his affairs, you stick around, you have your set of affairs if you want, we are not in love. So have an open relationship, just stick around for the kids. So she was like, no, I think I love him. So I said, okay, do one thing, just write down 10 things that you really like about him. She said, he never takes stand for me in front of his mom. This is my biggest anger against him. That when his mom is being unfriendly, when his mom is being absolutely crazy in front of him, in front of me, he does not take a stand. He comes and tells me akele mein that, okay, listen, my mom is like that. Just please bear with her. I said, what do you want him to do? This is a common question I ask everybody. What do you want the man to do? Take a stand, fight for you with his mother. You have a son today. When he grows up, now you have to please understand this. It is not moral science that I'm teaching. It is very scientific values that I'm going to tell you. We as humans are pack animals. There is an alpha man of the family. Till a point, the father is the alpha man. When the kids grow up, they start taking the alpha male position of the family. So probably your husband is the alpha male of the family who's taking care of the entire family. Specifically, I'm talking about families who are staying in a joint family structure. Now, till a certain point, your Sakyu ki saas bhi kabhi bahu thi, your mother-in-law has taken the setback and the second seed to her mother-in-law. This is her time to prove that she is the alpha woman of the house. And here comes a new entrant who says, no, sorry, mom-in-law, I am the alpha woman of this house. So there begins the fight. The fight is basically, it has got nothing to do with the man. It is about being the alpha woman of the pack. Who is to be blamed? Do we blame the mother-in-law or do we blame the daughter-in-law? We don't even realize this fact. We come in with a set notion. The mother-in-laws come in with a set notion that, okay, a new daughter-in-law is coming into the house. I have to teach her all the values of the house. She's coming from a different house. I'm going to teach her this. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. She tries doing that with all the huck that she does it with her own daughter probably. Or maybe differently. But now here, I am a woman who's entered your house. I have my own set. I'm going to change this house as per me. I'm not going to listen to you. I like my parents' way of bringing up. I don't like your way. Who is right and who's wrong here? Nobody is right. Nobody is wrong. If you look at it like this. But the minute we bring in that threat in our head, the minute the mother-in-law says something and she becomes the biggest threat in your survival, please understand it's all about survival. Everybody is here to survive. Thank you, Anurag. Thank you so much. And welcome to my session. Everybody is here to survive. Nobody is good or bad. The minute they become a threat to you. And what is your mission? To become the alpha female, to have your husband all under your control, or become the alpha female and have your son under your control. So this is a fight to be the head of the house. This is my house. Some women are tactful enough to take the husband away and start a new home. Even then, this fight continues. Some mothers also, like for example, my mother, the minute my brother got married, they said, you please have your separate home. We cannot stay together after marriage. It's always better if the son stays away. Duri se pyar bada rehta hai. But those are some houses. Most of the houses, the in-laws stay together. And this is a common thing that we expect men, and I really pity those men. Because idhar se bolo, mother ki taraf se bolo, to wife jute maregi, wife ki taraf se bolo, to mother jute maregi, to beech mein wo pis jate. They're like completely pisod. So what does a man do here? He loves you. There is no doubt that he doesn't love you. He loves his mother also. She's the mother. Nobody can take a mother's place. Nobody can take the wife's place. What does he do? What do you want him to do? If you really love him, please understand this. You also have a son. What if he stands up and starts, later when he grows up, he stands up and just starts fighting with you because of clash of values? Nobody is good, nobody is bad. It is just clash of values. And we cannot tag values as good or bad. Everybody have their own set of values. Everybody has their own set of history, baggage, emotions that are coming way, way, way from generations. Probably somebody saw something while growing up. Their mother was ill-treated as a housewife. So this woman has become like, okay, I will not let anybody ill-treat me. Or probably somebody has a history of bhabi who came in and ill-treated the family. So she is more protective about her brother now, and she doesn't want the brother to go through what the other brother to go through what the previous brother has gone through. So there's so many reasons why people behave in a certain way. When a conflict happens, there are two factors. One is the me factor. Me, my values, versus you, your values. Then there are two conflicts that are happening within also. Me versus me. What do I want? Most of the people don't even know what they want from a situation. On one hand, I can give an example of this movie Thappad. Okay, everybody is going gaga about that movie. When I saw that movie, my first question was, what happened? Fine, a thappad happened. The thappad did not happen. The situation of the thappad was not that, oh, I'm a macho man and I'm going to slap the girl. No. The situation was such that even if the boy's best friend was behind in that situation, he would have got a slap. So it was not a slap to the wife. It was a slap to anybody stopping me. But that slap awakened the woman within her. That slap awakened the fact that I am not doing what I always wanted to do. What am I doing with my life? Where am I heading? Why am I trying to prove that I am the best mother, the best daughter-in-law, the best wife? And what about me? What about me? So the conflict that began from that thappad was basically the cry to search for self. And the contrast image that the film showed was of this lady staying right next door who was a single independent girl. So this movie, if somebody really tries to understand from the conflict point of view, the conflict never happened because of me. I was not even the part of the conflict. I try to stop something from happening and I become a major part of it, and it completely finishes off my complete system, the family system that I've created around me, because I suddenly realized what I wanted. I am not in love. So there is this me factor. The others kept explaining it doesn't matter. There's something awakened within me. So the conflict is not with you at all. Most of the conflicts are not with the other person. It is within. What do I want? Now I want this. I want my independence. I want my name to be there. Then I go into the office with this extra confidence that, okay, I am going to do something. The minute I reach the office, there are already people out there wanting to do something, wanting the boss's attention, wanting to reach a certain stature at a certain point of time. Do you think it's going to be a cakewalk? No, they will try everything under the sun to make sure that they move forward before you. So now the me gets completely shaken up. Now it is all of you wolves hounding at me, trying to pull me down and trying to take my survival tactic away from me. My survival is being shaken up. So you become bad for me. The minute you become bad for me and not another human wanting to survive, you've become bad for me, you've become my enemy. How will I solve a conflict? I become threat to you then. I perceive you as a threat, not as a survivor, not as somebody who has their own struggles. I perceive you as a threat. Then I become a bigger threat. I'll bully you. Once I become a bigger threat, there is a big clash. A big clash where teams are divided, homes are divided, everything is divided. What after that? Main point comes after that clash. How you handle that clash. Either you just keep quiet for some time. There are 3 ways you can handle it. You have said what you had to say. Okay? You have kept your things clear. This is what I feel about you. Please help me. I know even you are in that thing. So when you understand the other person, when you're talking and you're not blaming the other person, when you're putting just your point of view, the other person is not mad. Everybody is an emotional being. Everybody is wanting to survive. They understand you also want to survive. Problem is when we pull other people down by saying they are stupid, or they are brainless, or they are nasty, or they are whatever, when we tag them in our heads. How will we converse with somebody whom we have already tagged? How do we converse with anybody when we have already tagged them? When we've already come to the conclusion that they will not listen. So coming back to that same old, my counselee's thing, when I told her, please write down 10 good qualities, that is when the tags started clicking out. She started putting the tags out. The gratitude came in. Okay, he has this quality also. Okay, he has this quality also. She sent him a nice sweet note the same night. And obviously that guy got completely mellowed down and he was like, oh my God, probably there's some ray of hope. We might survive this. So it is not the conflict that really matters. It is what you do after the conflict that matters. When you sit down to think about it, when you sit down and analyze it, and when you look at your role in the conflict, most of us, we make the victim of ourselves. Oh, this one didn't do this for me, or that one didn't do that for me, or this is not a good friend, this is not a good husband, this is not a good wife, this is not a good boss. So we have this perfect picture for every relationship. A perfect wife should be like this. A perfect husband should be like this. A perfect mother should be like this. A perfect human should be like this. How many qualities do each one of us have of that perfect picture that we are running around in our heads with? None. Hardly. I've always done these exercises in most of the classes when I ask them to write down the perfect picture, draw a perfect picture, write down the perfect qualities. And how many do you actually have? A lot of them say, oh, honesty is the best policy. Do you even understand what honesty is? Honesty is not just, okay, हमने सच बोल दिया. Honesty is खुद से भी सच बोलो. How many of us are actually truthful to ourselves? We are all busy painting a picture that we are not. We do not portray a picture that we are. We are so scared of opening our mouths. We are so scared of, अरे लोग क्या सोचेंगे? जो तुम हो वही सोचेंगे. If I open up my mouth, sometimes conflicts are very important. I am saying this today. Don't run away from conflicts. Please go and face your fears right into the eyes. It gives a chance to the world to know the real you. Firstly, there'll be less misunderstandings. Secondly, it takes away the power from the wrong group of people. Thirdly, it clears everything gets cleared in your head. Sometimes we have also misunderstood, right? It is not always the fault of the other person. Sometimes we perceive things in a very wrong light. So how will we know, hi Geeta, how will we know what we have perceived is absolutely right? By talking. But if we don't talk only, if we say, nahi, what will they think? Oh my God, how do I say this? How do I say no to somebody? How do I talk to somebody? By being eye-centric? By being assertive? By opening the cards? Why will anybody not be okay with it? By not becoming a threat. Firstly, when you sit down to talk, you don't start with, listen, we have something to talk. पहले ही बैंड बज गई सामने वाले की. So there are tactics how you talk. There are perfect ways when you've already not thought in your head that the second person with whom you are in a conflict is the only perpetrator. I am the perfect human being who's been tortured. If you don't have all this in your mind, talking becomes very easy. The minute you have that in your mind, oh, I will hurt the other person. Why will you hurt the other person when you're talking about your feelings? The person might just say, okay, you misunderstood me. So then you just turn around and say, okay, please explain me. It might have been my fault. I need to understand, because otherwise this will keep on going and we'll keep shoving things under the carpet and nothing is going to. Then what happens? When you don't talk, what happens? You keep putting it under the carpet, under the carpet, under the carpet, without solving issues, and you keep running around half irritated, half frustrated. What is the point? How will you ever stay happy when things are not getting solved? Happiness is not that you will never be in a state of conflict. It is normal in life to be in a state of conflict. But how do you solve it? You solve it by understanding, listening to the other person, listening. I said this in the last episode also. Listening is a very, very, very important aspect of any conversation that you're having. So when you express yourself freely, to seek explanation, and when you listen to the other person with a balanced state of mind without tagging them, to solve the issue amicably, to solve the problem and retain the relationship. Very important. What is your intention? To retain the relationship or to prove that you're right? What is your intention? And why you have to be right always? I can be wrong also, right? I might have misunderstood the situation. Can that never happen? Unfortunately, most of the times we do not take it like that. We always blame it, because blame comes very easy. Because with blame, it is the other person's responsibility to work hard. Thank you, Samir. It is the other person's responsibility to work, not mine. I am the way I am. This is how I am. You deal with it. So then I play victim. Firstly, I will not want to do anything about the conflict, and then I play a victim card. Doesn't happen like that. You will never be happy in any relationship then. Because there is no human being on earth who will have a 100% match with you when it comes to thought processes. Everybody will be different in some form or the other. So what are we doing when we meet anybody different from us? Are we accepting the difference? This is where diversity and acceptance comes into the picture. Or are we running them down by calling them, oh, this one is stupid, oh, this one is that. And we are seeing a lot of that on social media these days. We keep calling names to people. We keep, until and unless somebody is really playing the victim card. Everybody has the right to have a different opinion. Everybody has a right. So when we are living with people, living in the same house, in the four walls, and even now after COVID-19, with the lockdown, all this has really enhanced. I had the session on domestic violence also. So when we stop playing the victim card, first the me in me. What do I want? Who am I? I have to be honest with myself. This is me. This is what I want. This is what I expect. And I'm not getting it. So these are my feelings. These are my thoughts. Have tea with yourself. These are my thoughts. This thought is leading to this emotion. Is this thought even right? Does my husband not love me? Does my boss think I'm stupid? Actually, no. There's so many projects that he's passed of mine. So why am I feeling the way I'm feeling? Okay, this person is trying to create problems. Why is this person trying to create problems? Am I a threat to the person? How many of us ask this? Am I a threat to the person? Nobody asks. We are so busy blaming the other person that we forget to see that we are becoming the threat in somebody's life. Specifically in the relationship between mother-in-law, daughter-in-law, specifically in between the spouses, in the offices, even in between friends. Even in between friends. We want to control other person's emotions, which is not possible. Which is definitely not possible. Oh, my husband goes out with his friends to smoke. So, I don't like him smoking. Okay, there are ways to handle that. No, he doesn't listen. Why should he listen? Why should anybody listen to you and do as you want? Do you listen? Do you listen to everybody and do everything that other people want? No. Everybody has a mind of their own. They're not a 1 year, 2 year, 5 year old. Even my 5-year-old, 6-year-old child doesn't listen to me all the time. So there is a freedom to exist. So the minute you start becoming threat and you start controlling the other person, how will they listen to you? They will not listen. And you're creating a conflict. Okay, I'm worried about his health. Okay, so is he. There are other ways of gradually telling him, but what you have done, you have made it a personal issue now. He is not listening to me. The conflict has moved from the cigarette to me now. Please understand this. The conflict was my husband smokes and I am worried about his health. So I want him to stop smoking. He is not stopping. He is not listening to me. So now cigarette is just a bahana. It is now me. How can he not listen to me? Rather than now looking at ways to explain him, to bring him on board, to push him towards that, you will need a lot of motivation to quit all these things. It doesn't happen overnight. Just because I've told you have to stop. It doesn't happen overnight. There are so many addiction centers, not for no reason, right? So how much have you understood that he's finding it difficult to quit? He's finding it difficult to quit. It might be a habit that is going on since so many years. So give him some time. It is not you, it is him. It's about him. Now, little things like, oh, I went into the office and see the other people, they talk so much behind my back. That is human nature, to judge and to talk behind my back. Don't we talk? How many of you watching this video can say, I have never spoken anything about anyone behind their back? I want to see one person. And we talk as per our thought processes, right? I wouldn't have done this in this situation. I would have done this. A best friend is supposed to do this. A husband is supposed to do that. Kaisi buri mother hai? Kaisi buri wife hai? Kaisa bura husband hai? We all gossip. To feel good about ourselves. To feel good about ourselves. So when we hear gossip about ourselves, why do we feel so bad? What is the thought? Oh, there was this perfect human projection I was having. I thought people are watching me the way I am wanting them to. So the projection gets shaken up. Why do you feel so bad? The projection is being shaken up. Simple things. So when the projection is shaken up, when you hear something silly about yourself, what do? You either go and confront the person, you said this, you're such a bad human being. Or what do? Or you keep quiet. Most of the time I've seen people keep quiet. So if something was said that was really harmful, I would please suggest all of you to go and talk to the said person and clear the air. So that next time the person doesn't talk about you like that. And clear the air while being emotionally honest to the other person. They deserve to know what you're thinking. They deserve to know that you know. And you deserve a better treatment later. How will anybody treat you nice if you are not being true to them and telling them what is hurting you? And you're keeping baggages of years and years of baggage. How will the other person know how to deal with that? Nobody's God here that they will get into your heads and start understanding what you're going through. You have to start talking. You have to start looking into the threat, right into the eyes. And when you're evaluating after the conflict, evaluate with the me-centric approach. What did I do that I could have done better? What were my thoughts? Have tea with yourself. What were my thoughts? Why did I react so badly? Why did I get that anger? Where was the threat? Was the threat real or was it perceived? The minute you answer these questions to yourself, a perceived threat, was I a threat to the other person? Where did I go wrong? The minute you start asking these questions after a conflict, you will see you will become better at handling post conflict management, where you will start. See, when I okay, I'll give you my small example. There was this, as I told you, in my building itself. When you are into the creative thing, and when you are in the building management of social activities and stuff. So obviously you have groups which are for you, there are groups which are against you, and the ones that are against will obviously create some tantrum or the other. And I am a very vocal person. I speak up. I speak up. I'll say, okay, this is not like this is like this. I'll explain, I'll fight, I'll do everything. But what I do after that is, it is very issue centric, that fight. I have not tagged the person. After everything, I am the first one to go up to them, hug them, and take it forward from there. I don't carry it with me. I don't carry anything against anyone within me. Probably I became a threat to them. There is a competition, so I am a threat. It's understood. Hi, Pushpa. Pushpa, I missed half. It's okay. You can see the entire video after this. I'll be posting it. You can see the entire thing later. So, do I have anything against anybody who are publicly also abusing? Abusing is an understatement. It's okay. That is them. But tomorrow, if the same people are in trouble, probably I'll be the first one to stand up and help them also. Because I know somewhere it is all about survival. It is all about my value system clashing with yours. It is all about, okay, who's a threat to whom? That doesn't make anybody good or bad. Until and unless somebody makes it a mission to stand against you. There is one such family. And in such a case, I then just completely shut off. When I shut off, when I'm not talking, I'm more dangerous. Because I have cut off my emotional ties completely. Then your existence or non-existence does not bother me. And even if you do tandav in front of me, I will be least moved because I don't give you that power. Because I know you're a bigger threat to me. If I will give you that power, you will sit on my head and dance. So I don't give you that power. So whether it is in my family or in my friend circle or in my office, if somebody is a real threat, not a perceived threat, I will give it a lot of time to come to the conclusion if you're a real threat to me. If you're a real threat and you are harming my existence, I will move you away from my life. With a smile. Nobody can take my smile off. I don't give those rights to anybody. So with a smile, I say bye-bye. To never let them back again in my life. It is not about forgiveness. If they come and say hello to me, I'll be okay to them. I might turn around and say hello if they're nice and not coming in as a threat. But at the same time, I will be very wary. I will not let them affect me internally, but at the same time, I've learned my lesson. So I know they can harm me. So like for example, my ex-partner, it was a couple, okay? They're old friends, 20-year-old friends. We got into a partnership and monies were involved, obviously. And then one fine day I came to know they were tripping off the money all off. They were taking the money off, and when confronted, they obviously started blaming me, and they started doing various dramas they did. Oh, I had no option but to throw them out. I had to protect myself, otherwise they would have walked all over me. So sometimes you have to overcome the emotions to see what the fact is. If somebody is really hurting you, humans are judgmental for your own protection. So once you're seeing something wrong is happening and it might affect your existence, it will affect you in the long term, please look into it. Please please stand up for yourself and say no. I am going to come up with this episode of how to say no. Say no. This is my limit. I cannot do beyond this. So they tried speaking. You think they let me go easily? No, they said what not. In fact, I took them to the, because there was a sum that I had signed a paper in trust. I had signed a paper where they had taken money from somebody and I had signed that I will return it back. So they were all in that thing that we'll take this money from her. So I had to take them to the police station and all of that also happened. So in the police station they said what not. I am not scared of police because I have not done anything wrong. So I had to take them there. Otherwise I was in major trouble. So there's no victim card playing here again. Something that you have to do, you have to do. It is your right to protect yourself. So when I took them there and they were like, oh, this one is this one is that. And I don't know what all, they must have spoken to other people also around. I really don't care because people around me know what happened. So there was a big conflict at that point. So what do? Keep quiet because what the world will think about you, or protect yourself? It's a choice you have to make. I chose to protect myself. I had to throw them off. I had to make sure that those papers are back to me, which I did. Sam, dam, dand, ved, I did it. Because they had become a very big threat to me. And my parents were sitting on my head, killing me. What kind of a person are you? How can you trust somebody with papers like this? And so I trusted them because they're friends of 20 years. So you don't think. You were like, okay, they're friends. So this is, my dear friends, this is how we trust people. Our trust will be broken. But that doesn't mean everybody is like this. So I will not start looking at everybody with those mistrust in my eyes that, oh my God, you're going to cheat me. No. Everybody doesn't have an intention to cheat you. So please understand what is the intention of the other person. Understand where your thoughts are leading, because you will think from the past that has happened, whatever has happened in your life. You're coming from a baggage. So is that baggage applicable to the person sitting in front of you? So all these thoughts you will have to evaluate post the conflict, when you snap out, when you do whatever you have done. So when you're evaluating, give respect to the other person, give him or her the benefit of doubt, and see how far you can take this relationship without harming it forever. And if you think the person is really a threat, when we are talking about domestic violence, and when we are talking about real threats, please stand up for yourself. It is very important for each one of us to stand up for ourselves. If we will not, nobody will. You have the power to change your life. But while changing your own life, do not disrupt the other person's life. That is what conflict management is all about. Everybody is not bad, so don't take everybody as a threat, but the real threats need to be shown the right direction. Conflicts are a part and parcel of existence. They will happen. They will always happen. We have to look at it with a new light each time. Every conflict will have a different characteristic, because every conflict will show you something new about you. Every conflict will have another person who's absolutely different coming right in front of you with different brand new threats that you probably never knew how to handle. So every time you encounter something new, learn something new about yourself. Every conflict teaches so much to you about yourself. I did not know I could do so much when I had this particular partnership thing that happened. I did not know I had so much strength. I'm so happy I could do all that. So I did not know I had so much strength in me to go file a complaint, take the people to the police station and all of that, because I had never done that before. So I was like, wow, I could do this. And then there was another conflict that happened once in the office where I was really scared of my boss. And that was another new side I saw to myself, and I was just quiet. I used to just go, mum, with fear. Mum, with fear. So I say, oh, this is also me. So every conflict will show you something so new about yourself. It is such a beautiful journey that you move forward with, enriched with experiences. So please take conflict as a positive stuff where you are learning new things about yourself, you're learning new things about people around you, you're learning new things to strengthen the relationship. Don't run away from it. Talk it out more with I centric statements. What you're feeling, why you're feeling. Listen to your thoughts. Their thought leads to emotions, and emotions lead to action. So have tea with yourself after every conflict. Have tea with yourself. Thoughts, emotions, actions. Have tea. Listen to your thoughts. There's going on all the time. That is the real you, not the you that you're portraying to the world. While you're thinking, oh my God, this woman is so, and you think, oh, you're looking so beautiful. You're not being honest. Okay, I might not say anything if you're not looking good. Oh, hello, how am I looking? Ah, okay. I will not say, I'll not go all gaga, oh, you're looking so nice. So I will never be dishonest with myself. My connection with my thoughts is very strong, and this comes with a lot of practice. It will not happen overnight. It will come with a lot of practice. Start associating yourself with your thoughts, which is the real you vis-a-vis the you you're projecting and you are trying to protect, which leads to more conflicts. Your projections lead to more conflicts. Always remember this. And I'm going to come next week with another relevant topic on Mondays. I'm going to announce it on in a day or two. So looking forward to having all of you around next week also. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Do you want, okay, somebody wanted to come on the camera. Does anybody want to come and share the space with me? Okay, Divya wanted to come. Anybody wants to come and talk over the camera with me, share something on the said topic so that we can dissect, bisect, whatever, and come up with a solution for you. Anyone? If not, then it's okay. We can say bye-bye. Okay, it's not easy to come online and talk. No, it is not. So, okay, you guys please feel free to call me up. I think most of you have my numbers. If not, just send a message, inbox me a message, and anything, anywhere I can be of any support to help you survive with a smile. Please love me. Let me know. Oh, I'm loving the thoughts and journey. Actually, same feelings here. Pray for your health, happiness, and awareness, Priya. Thank you, Ratan. Thank you so much. Thank you, Pratibha. Thank you. It was awesome having all of you too. Take care. Don't forget to message me for my number if you really need to talk it out. I'm always there. I'm always there. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.